That Jane Shidi. My colleague William Evansinkum, who will be joining us pretty shortly on the phone lines as well, is making us understand that look, the operation is being extended into different parts of the Ashanti region as we speak. That it's been extended to Kenya. And so, quite interesting. I know someone at Kenya. But most certainly, that person will not be a part of activities involved in Galamsey. That I can say confidently. But let me bring in Crosby and Sixes as well. He's lurking around the corner somewhere. I mean, this was expected in terms of what is to happen. And I'll have us talk about the Martinamidu because I know I said we were going to finish up on that one. But this is if you're following us on Facebook and on YouTube as well, you have the privilege of being able to see exclusive videos as William Evansinkum has put together or sent through, and you see the military men marching at dawn, to be very honest, at dawn, going around and picking suspects, persons believed to have been responsible for attacks on the EPA team, because Evans is in Kumasi, and so he will be close to Dajin and then Obuasi, and you are seeing women wailing, a woman with a child wailing, and amongst many other things. There's concern, considerable concern on the faces of quite a lot of the women who, as a result of this dawn swoop, are asking questions as to why their children, husbands, and the likes are being picked up. But what I can say from what it is that we'll see, and you should go onto our Facebook if you can, or YouTube if you can. The handle is 3FM927. You see that, unlike what we witnessed during that Ashaiman incident, where they were being flogged amongst many other things, this has been very controlled, and they are just picking up the individuals. Subsequently, we've seen a number of them being lined up, being asked to sit on the ground, and for what possibly will be screening, and then identifications will happen as well. But these videos are playing right now on our Facebook and YouTube handles, and we're moving around with torchlights as well. And so it suggests an intelligence-led operation of some sort, because they weren't going anywhere. And someone also mentioning that people are being picked at Kenyasi, which is, if I work the math, I'm not sure it's close to Dajing where the incident happened. Of course, it's in the Ashanti region, but it's not a stone's throw that you can say that immediately you're picking somebody up from there as well. But what do you make of what it is that we're seeing, Cross? So this is Dajing, 16-seater toilet at Dajing, funded by somebody, MDF. And so this is Dajing. And they are the public toilet as well, trying to round up some of the individuals. Pretty interesting.
Clearly, an intelligence-led operation, Mawena, and this is a joint police-military swoop in the Ashanti, the Volta, and the Ahafo regions. So specifically, they are in Dajene and Angona. That's in the Volta region. In the Volta region at Ehi, and then in the Ahafo region at Shidiem, Kenya, Segwoso, and Mahani. So the operations started at dawn today, Wednesday, November 12, at all the locations, and it is aimed at identifying and arresting persons involved in the recent attacks on the members of the National Anti-Illegal Mining Operations Secretariat, the NIMOS team, and some of police officers and officials of the Environmental Protection Agency, including journalists. You know that story already. Now, the armed forces and the police warn that any individual or group that attempts to obstruct the operations of any of the security services in their anti-Galamsey operations in the performance of their lawful duty will face the full rigors of the law. The armed forces are saying that they wish to assure the general public that adequate measures have been put in place to ensure the safety and security of well-meaning inhabitants of these towns and communities, and they encourage to remain calm and go about their regular duties without fear or panic. Like you mentioned, it's good. that what we're seeing right now, the slope or the range, whatever you want to call it, it is very targeted. They are not going about beating people, harassing people, slapping people. We're not seeing that. They are going to specific places that their intelligence have told them that these people are among or played a role in the attack on the NIMOS team, the journalists, and the EPA when they went to go about their regular operations. So this, in my opinion, is good. Another step that this will go through is that after the dawn arrest, these people, the arrested people, will be paraded, will be screened, will be interviewed. So maybe there's a wrong intelligence somewhere that you added to it. If you're not among, they are not beating you, sorry to have arrested you, go about your normal duties. And then they're telling the community members that forget we're here, go about what you're doing. We are only looking for people who played a role. If you didn't play a role, you're going to farm, you're going to work, you're going to school, whatever you're doing, just feel free and then go about it. But if you're among, we will catch you.
If you're among, we'll catch you. I mean, Sixers, in terms of this operation, it's important that they've embedded the media in this, which allows for the transparency in terms of how these. I'm not even sure if suspects, calling them suspects at this point in time, qualifies, but inclusion of the media allows for a certain level of openness with what it is that is happening. Obviously, you want action taken and action taken swiftly as well, because the impression must not be created as though people can decide to attack state-recognized institutions and that will be allowed to go. But this operation must be done respectfully and respecting the dignity of all of the individuals, because they continue to remain innocent until proven guilty.
You recall my initial remarks when the incident first happened, the morning we came here. I said something had to be done and done swiftly, because that was not the first time. It all started with the attack on the then IGP task force, and then there was also another attack. So this was about the third one we were seeing, and it would become a habit. See, communities will begin to gain notoriety for attacking anti-Galamsey task forces, and we have to be able to stop that. Again, I need to the incident before this one, where the one that involved the 8 military personnel.
That's Shidium.
Yes.
There's an operation going there as well.
Yes.
It's targeted about 6 places altogether.
Good. Because look, we saw military men who
in the public toilets.
Look, it took all that was in them to be able to resist the temptation. Exactly. And if this doesn't happen, then we'll have a bigger problem on our hands. So this is commendable, and we are hoping that the people, the personnel involved in this will not also brutalize or abuse people.
So far, we've not seen that yet.
Take them up nicely and quietly. Let them tell their story. And all those who would be found to have participated in any of those attacks should be dealt with. There has to be respect for state institutions. There has to be respect for the uniforms. We have already lost it with our police. Now you can see a policeman and say whatever.
We've lost it with the police now. I disagree with you.
No, but who respects policemen?
I disagree with you strongly, actually.
Oh, brother, then you're on your own on this one. If you go out, why do we see that in a lot of even football matches? Don't they bring military men to come and gatekeep? Why is
The
it
police
so?
is there to gatekeep as well.
But there's a reason they bring the military, because people are beginning to respect. In fact, people have lost all respect for the uniform of the police.
That's hasty generalization.
No, it's not hasty. Well, that is your opinion.
Yeah, no,
because this is common knowledge. I don't know why we are even contending this.
No, it's not people. Well, some people do not respect the police.
Yes.
Have
You
lost-
can say
Some people also
the
do not
English you want
respect
to
the
speak,
military.
but we know
That-
that when you see, in fact, you see a police. Have we not seen people drive their cars past MTTD officers?
I mean, people.
In fact, there are times that they have attempted, policemen have attempted stopping drivers, and we have seen the attitude.
the same way
Just
people-
3 weeks ago or 2 weeks, no, 3 weeks ago, we showed a video here on Johnny's Bite where a policeman was attacked in uniform, holding his gun. He was beaten.
I'm saying that the same way people beat some military officers in uniform. We've seen
Which
that.
ones?
About some 2 years ago, there's a
I
military
don't
guy.
even know why this one is up
So
for
all I'm saying is
contention.
that don't generalize it that
public
is the entire.
Okay, that is my
populace.
opinion. Abi, I am speaking
So
my opinion.
you have
So
lost
if you
respect
own-
for the police.
I didn't say me. I didn't say me.
Are you not
I
part
am
of
doing
people?
an analysis based on the
No,
general
I
happenings
get
and the
you.
common knowledge.
I get
and I
you.
am surprised that you people are contending this.
No,
Because it's not
Eh,
true. It's
when
not
you,
general.
if
It's
we
not
step
general.
out of the studio and you want to say anything, I'll record you and come and play it on there. So it's the same reason we shouldn't let people disrespect and disregard the military uniform. Because we the other day, Abiam and I went to have lunch somewhere with Kosomia, and we met this military man there. In fact, we were in the barracks. It's not like he wandered us. So we wandered into the barracks to have lunch. And we just struck a conversation with a random soldier man, and he was explaining why it is very bad to have military men at demonstrations, because the military man doesn't come to play. When you deploy a military man, he is not there to say, how are you? He is there to act.
Obviously,
the
that's-
Nigerian minister even said it when he was briefing the media. He said
Yes.
using military for crowd control should cease.
It's a not
It should not even happen.
So we need to be able to bring back some sanity and respect and honor to the police uniform. And all of these would give some credence to that.
Right.
In addition to that, it will also give us some justice. I mean, it was not cool that
The manner in which they operate.
the convoy was chased out of the community. They were pelted with stones in their haste to escape. They had an accident. It was not.
Let's go into the phone lines. Evans is in Dajin right now. We can all take a listen to him. Evans, good morning to you. Thank you very much for joining us. Brief us as to what's happening right now following that dawn swoop, and perhaps you start from the top for us, where it all started from.
Well, absolutely. So, good morning to you, Mawina. Good morning to you, our listeners. Yesterday, I had a call from the Regional Police Command that they would need me on an operation. They would not tell me specifically which area they were going to conduct this operation, only to tell me that I have to be available at the police command around 2 a.m. So, yes, I was there. I saw a number of policemen who have assembled for some level of briefings. Then, 20 minutes later, I saw a convoy full of militiamen also joining. So we set up, and in fact, we were divided into 3 groups. I didn't know where each of the group was going until our operation was done. So we headed towards Dajin. Dajin is a community that last week, Thursday, if you could remember, it was a community that Ibrahim and then some other colleague journalists, together with the EPA, had visited when they were actually attacked by some thugs suspected to be illegal miners. In fact, they were chased out, which led to their vehicle involved in an accident, and the rest is history, because it's something that we know already. So one of the soup or one of the team targeted that particular area, and Mawina, it was more or less like a movie. I mean, a number of suspects were rounded up, but this time around, the men were separated from women and, of course, children. So there, over 120 men were picked from Dajin. Then there was another soup. And let me also state, these operations were done simultaneously. So while Dajin suspects were being picked, Fidium suspects were being picked. And Fidium was the target because you also remember, approximately 2 weeks ago, some military men from Naimos were attacked. And we all saw videos, gone viral on social media where they had to be protected by the police in order not to be mauled by these angry, bloodthirsty guys. So that was also a target. Then there was another community at Obuasi. That community has yet to get the name. Another team also targeted that particular area and rounded up some suspects, believed to be engaged or suspected to be engaged in illegal mining. So as I speak to you now, they've all been brought to the police depot, like the police committee here at Akase, where they are being screened. And my understanding is that the police know the very people that they are looking for, that they are doing or they are conducting some level of interrogation, trying to do some level of segregation, that is to get the target, and then those who have nothing to do with the crime or the allegation, then they will be allowed to go back to the various home. So that is what is happening at Depo, Mawina.
And you describe the respective areas where this team has gone to. You as well have been providing details as to persons being picked up from other locations. For instance, Kenyasi, which if I might not know the Ashanti region as well as you may know it, but I know Kenyasi and Dajin might be some miles apart. Yet we're getting indications people are being picked from different parts of the region.
Well, absolutely. So before this operation, as we all know, intel might have been picked. Lots of work would have gone into in terms of picking up intelligence before the men moved. So, for instance, when we arrived at Dajin, they went straight into specific houses, all right? And I also pick information that similar exercise was also conducted at Fidium. The journalists were also divided. There were teams that were following the Obuasi operation. Then we had another team following the Fidium operation. We were following the Dajin operation. So per the narration or per the account that I've had from colleague journalists who went to Fidium, it was more or less like a military operation. Because I've seen videos where the military were heavy on the ground as far as this particular operation was concerned, compared to Fidium or compared to Dajin, where we had the police doing much of the work with the military support. So that is what I have gathered so far.
Now, when you got to Dajin, we've seen videos of some of the women wailing, crying. What was that about? Was it a case they were seeking to prevent the operation, or they are making the claim that these individuals being picked up for screening were not involved in any way at all with the incident?
Well, there were intermittent resistance. So we saw a woman, two of them, crying, but they were claiming that their relative had nothing to do with it, and they also don't know why he's being picked. And for that matter, they were demanding for an immediate release of their relatives. And a couple of others. Some households we also saw similar things. But the police, because they were working with intelligence, we'll have none of that. Of course, we will also not let the relatives know why they were being picked.
Was explanation offered to them? And let me know if you have to leave, because your voice, I mean, the decibel levels has reduced, because I understand there's some work being done in the background. Talk to us about that work being done and whether or not explanations as well was offered to the individuals who were raising these concerns that people were being picked up wrongly.
Okay, so now we are moving from Patasi to the regional police command. We are still expecting some briefing. That one hasn't been done yet, so we're hoping that there's going to be some level of briefing, but it is not sure. But you ask a question before this particular answer. If you could repeat that.
I'm asking whether or not there was some details provided to the residents, some of whom were resisting the arrest of these individuals.
Not at all. I mean, no explanation was provided to them. The police, I mean, the team were very economical with information, and from observation, it was one of the reasons why there was a bit of agitation, because they wanted to know where they were being taken to, what the offenses were or are, and all of that. But those information were not given to them.
And for now, after the screening, you say you're headed to the regional police command. Do we have an understanding as to what is going to happen when you get there?
Well, so we are still expecting some briefing from the police. I am hearing that probably that may not happen because already the military or the army has issued a statement, but the police hasn't officially given that level of information to say that, well, it is coming from them, or probably you would want to credit them for that particular information. So we are still following. As I said, we are moving to the police regional command, and we still don't know whether there's going to be some level of briefing. But as I speak to you now, there hasn't been any briefing so far.
Right, Evans.
Only to say that we know why the swoop was conducted. It has everything to do with the attack on the EP and some journalists. It has everything to do with those military guys who were also attacked at Fidium.
Do we know the number of individuals who were picked up from Dajing?
So for Dajing, approximately 120 suspects were picked. Fidium, I understand over 100 were picked. Then Obuasi, I understand excess of 50.
Excess of 50 at Obuasi?
Absolutely.
So, we're looking in excess of 270 individuals, if we're not being mistaken.
All right.
And for the Fidium and Obuasi, they are all being moved to the Ashanti Regional Police Command, or these individuals have to be taken to different locations? Do you know? So,
before departure, I saw some, for want of a better word, segregation, in a sense that now they are going through the screening process. Details are being taken. During the operation, I heard one of the commanders say they have evidence and they have pictures of the very target that they are looking for. So I'm pretty sure the segregation has everything to do with what information or what intelligence they have in relation to what pictures they have, the targeted suspect they are looking for, and all of that. And if indeed they are among those that were caught during the swoop. But I'm pretty sure there is going to be another maybe briefing, maybe a statement to confirm whether they've been able to arrest those specific targets, or they've been able to identify those specific targets among the number of people they picked up this dawn.
Right then, Evans, I'll allow you get a bit more in terms of the details for us. That's William Evans Nkum. He's my colleague who's been following the Joint Military Police Task Force, if we can call them that, who have gone round picking up suspects believed to have been behind attacks on the NIMOS team, the EPA, from last week. In excess of 270 people, as a matter of fact, being moved to the different parts of the Ashanti region, because his team is headed towards the regional police command, amongst many others. And positive news in respect to having people conform, amongst many other things, to the laws of the land. But again, it will be interesting to see how this goes and whether or not the individuals are identified, the ringleaders and what have you. Because from these guys even, we can get an understanding as to who are the kingpins with respect to the mining operations which were being undertaken in these respective areas, reason for which they had cause to attack the task force and the EPA team as well.
3FM Sunrise. 3FM Sunrise. Amen.
10 minutes to the top of the hour. We're just going to switch lanes right now, because yesterday we know that we got details of the crash report by the investigative committee chaired by the acting defense minister, Dr. Kasia Latoforsen. I don't want to get into the details, but we want us to listen for ourselves. Captain Retired Forgewa, who addressed the media after they delivered the findings to the president on Monday.
The helicopter was airworthy, but it lacked additional safety enhancements. For instance, the terrain awareness warning system. Now, the terrain awareness warning system, for instance, is predictive. So what it does is it tells you, warns you, it gives you a better picture of the situation and puts the pilots in it gives them, puts them in a position to make better judgments, to be able to see everything and be able to foretell if there are any things that could possibly create a problem. But they lacked the additional safety enhancements required for the weather phenomenon over that terrain. There was adverse weather, there was limited visibility, there was rising rugged terrain, where this terrain induced complicating factors, and there were no ground-based navigational route aids en route. The investigation would like to say that from everything they gathered, the emergency response was very timely. The fact that these first responders managed to get to the site in about 2 hours was remarkable, because the terrain has very steep slopes. It was raining, it was slippery. So it wasn't the easiest thing to do. When we went to the site, it was also raining and it was very slippery. And we struggled using sticks and everything to try to get up there. So looking at everything, we would say very confidently that the emergency response was very timely. The investigation determined that the accident was caused by the sudden loss of altitude and lift due to downdraft. This loss of altitude without change in power or pitch altitude is consistent with downdraft associated with changing environmental conditions over high terrain. The captain was a qualified FAA, that's the Federal Aviation Administration, commercial and instrument rated pilot from Bristol Academy, Florida, USA in April 2015, 10 years ago. It's interesting to note that for quite a while, and as at now in the Air Force, the highest category is Cat C. So the pilot was totally competent to be flying this plane. There was adverse weather, there was limited visibility, there was rising rugged terrain, with this terrain induced complicating factors, and there were no ground-based navigational route aids en route. The investigation would like to say that from everything they gathered, the emergency response was very timely. The fact that these first responders managed to get to the site in about 2 hours was remarkable.
And that's Captain Retired Fodjor. So for those of you who are listening who couldn't quite catch exactly what it is, get onto our Facebook as well, because we've put all of these in bullet points which we can share with you, so you can get a better understanding as to what it is that is being required of our military going forward in terms of equipment for their use. Of the many things, there were recommendations on safety matters that the Ghana Air Force's fleet requires a certain level of modernization. There's a need to acquire aircraft with specific additional navigation systems which help them understand the terrain they are in, amongst many other things. Also install cockpit voice recorder with audiovisual capabilities. That these new flights should contain such things, and invest in flight simulators for regular training of personnel is the huge chunk of the recommendation which was made. And we know that they are asking for terrain awareness and warning system to be implemented as well. That's the TAWS. If you're watching on Facebook, that's a terrain awareness system. And then amongst many other things, they are asking for as well one other such very important system which can aid enhanced ground proximity warning system as well. Terrain awareness system, enhanced ground proximity warning system, because this was what Captain Fodjor in addressing us yesterday said, should this had been aboard, it could have helped make better decisions whilst they were on. Also, they are asking for autopilot features on the aircraft to allow or ease the pressure on the pilots, because then they will not be engaged all throughout the journey up until the point where they have to take over and then make the landing. Also, they recommended that we engage certified aviation weather provider, because it does appear we do not have one. This is what it means. Also, establish en route navigational aids and tracking system. And then they are asking that we implement flight data monitoring. And then we provide adequate ground support equipment. And the ground support, I believe, is in relation to response to the crash site, where they are asking for adequate support equipment for ground support in instances like that. I believe there's a bit more in terms of what it is, but these are the recommendations as I've come through. And Sixers, you were listening in as well yesterday in terms of the finality this brings to all of the matters involving the investigation into the crash.
Well, I think we have no reason yet to question the report, as it were. Our curiosity is still at peak, but the committee is made up of men and women of integrity, and there's no reason to doubt that they are trying to hide anything until we find a reason to. So we will take the report as it is, and particularly zoning in on the recommendations. You see, there was something that they said about weather, that even before they took off from Accra, there were concerns about the weather, and that delayed the flight for, I think, 2 hours or 1 hour or 2 hours.
It was an hour.
An hour.
Delayed the flight for an hour.
Good. And there was no weather information. And I was wondering, what exactly does that statement mean? Is it that there's no weather information from Ghana Meteo to the Air Force as an entity, or the information is channeled from Meteo to the Air Force, but trickling down from whoever is receiving at Air Force down to the various pilots on duty the day the information didn't flow? So what exactly is it? Again, is it that the Air Force itself is not hooked, as in directly linked to the Meteo, in a way that there's regular, consistent relay of weather information?
Because we know they send it to Civil Aviation Authority and
because
the
we
airport.
know.
Yeah.
And also we know that there was even civil aviation, there was some debts between civil aviation
Absolutely. That's the basis
Ghana.
upon which we're even making the point.
We are making the point. So what really went wrong? And from the report, as of the time of takeoff, there were still concerns about the weather. So who gave the clearance to say that, well, the weather is not good, but pilot, we trust you. You can do your best? Is that the case? The report, I'm speaking directly to the report. The report says that as of the time of takeoff, there were still concerns about the weather, visibility. He used some terms, some technical terms there. Somebody would have said, you are cleared to take off. Was it from the Defense Ministry itself? Because we also know that no military chopper can move without authorization from the minister.
But in this case, he was the one who was making the travel, yeah.
So, where did the clearance come from that, notwithstanding the weather challenges, let us weather the storm? Where did that clearance come from? And when that clearance was given, the person giving the go order, was the person aware that the chopper did not have a lot of these things that the investigations uncovered? Because you are going into the hinterland, as we like to call it, mountainous area, forest zone. You have no navigational aids and tracking systems. Your chopper doesn't have. There's no flight data. As for the flight data, it's in the course of the flight, right? So that one is another leg of the conversation. But even before the takeoff, if we know that the weather is not clear, but there are some aids that the pilot can use, then we say, okay, there's 60%, 70% visibility. So you go ahead and stay alert. Pay attention to your, your aids, your ground aids, and all those things, the support systems. Then you can move. So who gave the clearance? And before giving the clearance, was the person aware that as it was not adequately equipped or sufficiently equipped to make that trip, given the circumstances? I'm sure if it were a clear day, we wouldn't have been having this conversation now.
Yeah, we wouldn't have.
But there were exceptional circumstances at the time which should have made whoever was given the go order think twice about the clearance. That's the first point. Second point, that brings me to the flight data monitoring. Well, I'm not a technical person. I don't know. It's still able to fly.
The explanation, and you're talking about the point that needs to be made is that from the investigation, the aircraft was airworthy. That's what we've been made to understand.
Yes.
It was airworthy and could fly. So that's the ground rule.
It was airworthy under normal circumstances. That's why I made the point that these were exceptional circumstances. Because the same report said that the flight had to be delayed for 1 whole hour because of weather, for weather conditions, right? And goes on to say, even at the point of takeoff, there was still not clarity on a lot of the concerns. So it shouldn't have taken off in the first place. That's the point I'm trying to make. And the report also spoke about the response time.
Says it was in
record time.
It was good. No, not record time. It was good response because the terrain is rugged.
Yes, it was.
The terrain is rugged.
Given the circumstances,
yes,
it was a good response. And he even said they went there themselves, and it was the raining. Difficulty with which they had to climb up, then is what informed the conclusion that they drew that the response time was good. But it comes back to how well equipped our army is. If we have a base in Kumasi, and from Kumasi to the place,
there's a base in Obuasi where the event was happening at, from where they moved actually.
Okay, they were based in Obuasi.
I'm saying there's a military base in Obuasi.
In Obuasi.
There's one in
Kumasi.
Kumasi as well.
So there's actually one closer. So the place is in between Kumasi and Obuasi. Am I right?
I think you moved from Obuasi headed towards the place.
So Kumasi is further away from.
It's further.
Okay.
It's further.
I'm just disagreeing with the conclusion that the response time was good time. A whole 2 hours. It means nothing could have been salvaged. It means that the scene could not have been preserved.
But I want to add this very important context, and it was a question Komla Kruche asked yesterday, which I believe the response hasn't quite cleared. So as to what happened, I think there's clarity on that front as to what happened. But
how it crashed, we know that the qualification of the pilot is not in question.
Exactly.
Or neither is the qualification of the crew in question. The aircraft was airworthy. So it comes down to bad weather.
Bad weather. The concern for one of which you're raising is response time. And yesterday, real-time tracking was one of the proposed recommendation by Captain Forjo and the committee which investigated this matter. If you marry that recommendation with the chopper going missing on radar, you have an issue that comes up as to what time did it go off, when did they realize, and all of that. But remember as well that the military or experts have said that when the flight goes off radar, it doesn't necessarily mean it has crashed.
No.
It could mean they are flying below altitude and so cannot be captured by the radar.
It just simply means we can't find you.
No. Yes, we can find you, but not necessarily we can't find you because you have an accident.
No.
And so that's the important context I want to add, even as you proceed.
Yes. But you see, that also even adds to the concern, because it comes back to the tracking system. There's something about the chopper not having a tracking system. There's something about that somewhere in the report. Even because the report we got on that day, we all got the news, and the concern was that between the time the chopper went off radar and the time it could be confirmed that there was a crash, there was some significant time there. So, still building onto the point of response time, because if there was any distress at all that needed immediate response, let's say some 3-4 hours had already passed before there was a firm establishment that there was a crash. So this report has found everything wrong with the transport and transportation system of our military. And unfortunately for us, the investigation and the report were limited to just this particular chopper. Can we commission another one? Oh, no, we don't even need to commission, because I'm sure that the top hierarchy of the military would have had reports on the state of the transport system and transportation of our military, based on which we need to act before another tragedy strikes. Because everything that happened was just about this particular chopper, the Z9, right?
Yeah.
But there are other machines that we need to be sure that our brothers, our sisters, our fathers, our uncles who are dedicating themselves and their lives to serving our nation, that the nation is also in equal measure ensuring their safety as they move in and out. The raids we spoke about, where they went to the communities they went to pick up
the individuals.
The individuals. I'm sure they went by road. Could we have had a chopper that would just lift them in a matter of 5 minutes? They are done with this community, you lift them, then they are done with that community, you lift them, then they are done with that community. Even the road transport, are their vehicles trustworthy? I think this is just an opener into a lot more investigation that should happen. Or we want to cut away the investigation and go straight to retooling the military.
That's come up. I mean, it was a foremost of the recommendations which came through from them, that there's an urgent need for a retooling of our military, and it's one of the reasons why we'll seek to get onto the phone lines and engage one of the ranking, the vice on the defense and interior defense committees in Parliament on this, but these are the recommendations. Now, I've heard you speak to everything that's happened, but there are also some other critical aspects that perhaps we have to pay attention to. In the report, which was provided to us was read to us by Captain Fojo, it is very important to notice that there was a mention of planned maintenance of the aircraft, which, yes, is acceptable. There was we wrote to the manufacturers that it be brought at a later date. That date being August 18, before the unfortunate incident happened. What this tells us, or from everything that we've heard, we've read, and we continue to discuss, suggests amongst many other things that for a very long time we have actually not done things up to scratch in terms of the acceptable means through which our fleet ought to be managed, and having operated the best of systems. And I know this comes with a conversation of cost, because to have the very best of systems, you have to pour money on the ground. You have to pay for it. We haven't operated at the highest of standards in terms of allowing our military operate, or the Air Force operate with the best of gadgets to ensure the safety of their lives. And granted, I mean, crashes are very rare and far in between. And so sometimes there's a tendency for us to want to gloss over exactly what it is that we have, because we manage with it and we're able to go about our business and be efficient with it. But I think this also opens up the box that if we can and if we should, the best of systems should be what is available to the military at all times. And I say this with specific reference to the fact that our presidential affairs correspondent, Komla Kruchi,
it should not be if we can. No.
I think I corrected and said we should.
Yes.
We should. Because our president has been on this specific helicopter, the Z9, early on this year, as a matter of fact. It is not a conjecture, because I believe and I trust our presidential affairs correspondent when he delivers information to us on these matters. And so these are the lines that we cannot afford to allow cross again if there is evidence that our president has been on this plane before, and it didn't have these additional safety requirements, reason upon which we should ensure safety. And again, I'll come back to the point about the fact that it should have gone for a certain additional maintenance again, routine maintenance check, which we said, or we asked for an extension of time. Why did we ask for an extension of time? Was it financial? Because at another date, this could have been the president. But let's get onto the phone lines and speak to Dr. Dominic Andor. He's a lead consultant at Aviation Ghana. He's joined us this morning as well. Doc, I appreciate you joining us this morning for this conversation. And I believe you've seen the report as well, and the many aspects which stick out. Let me first ask of your general assessment of what it is that was done and whether or not it brings a certain finality, which is the argument that Captain Forjo made yesterday, that this would bring some finality as to what happened on the day of August 6th.
Oh, hi. Good morning. So my first impression was that they did a good job, though there are a few questions here and there that we would have to ask. However, generally, they did a good job. If you look at the composition of the investigation team, it's fine. Though it's a military helicopter that crashed, there were civilians on board. So it was prudent for them to also have brought on AIB, Aircraft Incident and Accident Investigation Group. Essentially, the AIB exists to help investigate civilian accidents. But once there were civilians on board, we couldn't have left this to the military alone to conduct the investigations. That's why the AIB was brought on board, to take care of the civilian interest. So the composition of the investigation team is fine, essentially. And the outcome of the findings that essentially the weather was the major problem. It posed a lot of obstacles that the crew couldn't surmount, essentially due to the lack of various key avionics on board the helicopter. So essentially that is what the report says.
You said good report, but there are questions from which answers are required. We've been asking some of these questions of our own, starting off with why perhaps these additional safety measures, which we're told we do not know would or could have prevented the accident, but would have allowed for better decisions to be made. Is that where you will begin your questions from as well?
Okay, I'll ask two questions, then I'll attend to your question. One, we said the Air Force, if you look at the recommendation, need to contract an aviation weather provider. So who provided the weather information to the crew before they left Accra? Did they have to rely on their colleagues in Kumasi to say the weather is clear? Or did they have to rely on their colleagues in Obuasi to say, oh, the weather is clear, come? That's one question. If you look at the visibility that was mentioned in the report, how did they come by the visibility? Who provided that weather information to them? Now, they said visibility was 700 meters or 600 meters, etc. Who? The third question is, if you compare the visibility of the day to the visibility of this Z9 helicopter, we call something visual flight rules. Visual flight rules is that if you don't see in front of you of a certain meters, you don't fly a particular aircraft. That's why Passionate or Africa World Airlines in December, when there's a lot of fog and they can't fly safely to Tamale, they will tell you that the visibility is 700 meters. They want it to be 900 or 1,000 meters before they go. So every aircraft has its own visual flight rules that allows that, especially for one that didn't have a lot of avionics on board. Those are the questions I'll ask generally. But coming back to your question about avionics, it was very important that we had those things on board. Granted, the weather was very challenging. It posed a challenge to them. However, those things would have helped the crew surmount those challenges. They knew the weather in Accra. They knew the weather in Obuasi. But in between, the report itself says that there was no real-time weather data to the crew, and there was no real-time terrain awareness system to the crew. They know that there's a mountain here, there's a forest here. If you know there's a mountain in an area, you look for where the wind is hitting the mountain, where it's rising. If it's rising and you fly over it, instead of downturn, it will push you up. There's an up drag. And when you are coming, if you are flying over where the wind is also coming down the slope of the mountain, for instance, CV3, if the wind is coming from 37, hitting your building, it will rise because there's a mountain, your building is a mountain, it will rise when it hits the building. It will come down on the other side, which is the Netherlands embassy side. So if you are flying over such an area, you know that is where the drag will happen because it's coming downside. So you know where to pass and where not to pass. But these were some of the things not readily available to the crew to help them surmount the obstacle, the challenging environmental conditions they found themselves.
Now, you've spoken to visibility and what was the advice amongst many other things. What is the acceptable limit in terms of what it is a pilot flying a helicopter in the mold of the Z9 should consider when moving?
It varies. Acceptable limit varies from aircraft to aircraft. But the Z9, this type essentially, when the weather is very clear, there is no fog, there's nothing, clear skies. The last time I checked, it's about 1,200 or 1,500 meters. You should see in front of you. Because if you're able to see in front of you about 1,000 to 1,500 meters, etc., you know helicopters don't fly above the clouds. They fly below it. So if you're able to see in front of you, and then there's a mountain ahead of you, you're able to take an action to overcome that. But if it's very close, you just see in front of you 500 meters, 600 meters, your reaction time is limited. But if it's a bit longer, you can see. When there are clouds and other things, the visibility weather is required, the visibility threshold is very high, is way higher to ensure that you can see in front of you before you go. And I was expecting that the report said visibility at the time was 600 or to 700.
Is that visibility was down to about 200 meters per eyewitness account?
Wow. So imagine 200 meters will give you very few or very limited reaction time. 200 meters. 200 meters, let's paint it for our listeners, what is radio? Imagine Usain Bolt running 100 meters. Double that Usain Bolt run. The yard is running, the meters is running by 2. And if a helicopter traveling at such a speed, it gives you very little reaction time. 200 meters will be just about from TV3, we are coming down all the way to, let's say, probably MTN. You may not even get to MTN ahead of us, right? So very limited reaction time. So if you are flying from TV3 towards that side, and there's a big mountain in front of you per the eyewitness account, it gives you very limited reaction time. And they didn't have the benefit of knowing that there's a mountain in front of us. They didn't. Because there was no terrain awareness system. One of the avionics that Captain Fojo spoke about, that it wasn't on board the aircraft. So the reaction time was very limited, and that will impact your performance.
Doc, let's talk the systems we've had to operate up until this investigation became public and revealed what it is that we have as a country. How hasn't this come up for a conversation as to the tooling of our military and the equipment which is necessary to ensure safety?
I think it actually came out. In fact, the late Dr. Mane Boama actually spoke about it during his birth. He did say that we need to retool the Air Force. It was something that he was passionate about, that we should seek wherever the money is, we should find it, and retool the Air Force. Because these are the people to defend the country against any of these things. And these are the same people that if there are issues in other remote parts of the country, we send them to go and do rescue, search and rescue. In fact, if you look at the history of the aircraft, this crew, they flew on the 2nd and 3rd and 4th. The 2nd and 3rd was a medical evacuation.
Absolutely.
Probably, yes. So they were helping people. Probably they were flying somebody from a remote part of the country to the city center, probably GMC. Come and see treatment. Without their involvement, the person may have died. So if you route through them properly, we stand to benefit. If you are stranded somewhere, there's a big accident somewhere on the Kumasi Road, you are in the forest somewhere, they can fly the helicopter and land on the scooper, get you onto the helicopter and fly to Accra for treatment. So when we route through them, it benefits us. And Dr. Mane Boama spoke about it no more than once, 2-3 times I've heard it. He spoke about that. It's something that his government was going to do. Because he realized that, no, they really need to be retooled. So it's something that he was passionate about, but unfortunately, it has happened.
And unfortunately, it has happened. Now there's a task for us to retool the military based on the fact that the assessment has moved just beyond what happened with this Z9 onto all other aircraft and has raised these pertinent safety concerns. There are those who are of the view that, look, let's pause all of these flights and ensure that we are able to upgrade and get the necessary safety checks on before we go about our business. Where do you stand on this?
Which flight? The military helicopters you are talking about, or the civilian ones?
The military helicopters.
Okay. So essentially, we need to take stock of it, the military helicopters, and see which ones are appropriate. But I think this may be one of their best, because if the president was supposed to fly on this one, it may actually be one of their best. And even their best lacks, to be honest. So imagine what they actually have now. So you realize that the engineers cleared the aircraft to fly. The pilots also did their safety checks and cleared it to fly. In clear skies, without clouds, without flying to a rugged terrain or mountainous terrain, this will go and come, because airway they can't fly. But just like you and I, if you are driving a Range Rover to Kumasi with an airbag, and I'm driving a bit 4 blocks to Kumasi, when we are involved in an accident, I don't have an airbag in my car. There's no safety for me, but you do, so it will protect you. So those are some of the things we are talking about. You are driving a modern car, which has a reverse camera, so you don't actually look into your rear view mirrors. You see the lines red, indicating that you are going to somebody's place. It may even warn you, beep, 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 that you are going close to a car. Then you can park. But this time, I don't have that. I have to look into my rear view mirror or turn my head in the car and do that. Push to start, you have that in your car. I don't. I have to put my key. If you even forget your car in your key, it will alert you that your car is in the key, pick it up. Those are the avionics that we need in the modern equipment that we acquire for the Ghana Air Force. That's what will help us in the long run.
Doc, I appreciate you joining us and having this conversation. That's Dr. Dominic speaking to us this morning on what it is that we found out from the reports. But very important questions you ask as well.
Most welcome, my brother. Yes, we would like to have answers to those questions. I would have loved to see, when you were talking about visibility, to state that the Z9 has a visibility threshold of this. The VFR, I call it visual flight rule. The rule is that if you don't see in front of you for this meters, don't fly. They should have stated that in the report for us to see. And they should have told us who gave the weather forecast to them before if you are telling us that they don't have a contracted weather service provider in the report. It would be nice to know all those things as well.
Dr. Ando, thank you as well once again for speaking to us. And that's Dr. Dominic Ando, is a lead consultant at Aviation Ghana, speaking to us this morning, I should say, on what it is that we found out from this report. We'll go for a quick break. When we return, we have our friends from the Securities and Exchanges Commission again who are here for a very important conversation, because you matter to us and your investment